Tidings of Destruction. Mr. Xcellence Brandon Scott is an unlikely #1 contender to the VCW title. Not because of Brandon's skill or accolades, not because he's not deserving, but because for months, Brandon has been in the doghouse of our Director of Operations, Jerry Stefanitsis. And it is very surprising that Brandon Scott has been rewarded with a title opportunity. And it's actually specifically because of the enmity that the Director of Operations has for Brandon Scott that Scott has been led to this position. Joseph Keys personally requested an opportunity to humiliate Brandon Scott in front of Jerry Stefanitsis, and at the same time prove himself as a fighting champion by defeating one of, if maybe not the greatest, VCW heavyweight champion in the history of this company. This is a chance for Brandon Scott to completely turn things in his career around. It's been a real attitude change for Brandon Scott over the last several months. He is a more humble, more agreeable person, no less hungry for championship gold. I am Jason Heat, alongside Brandon Metheny in this main event match for the Virginia Heavyweight Championship, our main event here at Tidings of Destruction. And we have a brand new heavyweight champion here in VCW. Joseph Keys upset the Boar last month in our sold-out debut in Alexandria. Now Joseph Keys is grabbing our timekeeper by the neck, forcing him to serve as a manservant, taking off Keys' ring jacket. Joseph Keys trying to break in the young boys here in VCW. Considers himself to be the locker room leader now as the champion. Says professional wrestling has gone soft, and Joseph Keys is the one to toughen it up again. Joseph Keys upset the Boar at that sold-out debut in Alexandria, 700 people, standing room only. And it was a shock to everyone when Toxic Vascularity Joseph Keys won the title, and how he won the title with the reason attacking, not to help Joseph Keys, but to hurt the Boar. Joseph Keys now looks to defend his title for the first time against a former champion, a man he's known for many years, Mr. Xcellence Brandon Scott.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our main event of the evening. A one-fall match for the VCW Virginia Heavyweight Championship. With the bellings, the man in charge, VCW Senior Official, Ron Mills. Introducing the competitors. First, the challenger, standing to my left. He hails from Robbinsdale, Minnesota, and weighed in at 191 pounds, Mr. Xcellence, he is the reigning and defending VCW Virginia Heavyweight Champion, Toxic Masculinity, Joseph Keys.
Toxic Vascularity, Joseph Keys has really hit his physical and mental peaks of late. There were many, many years that people saw so much potential in Joseph Keys. And here he has, in the year 2023, really put it all together. He has found the keys to success. He has become the Virginia Heavyweight Champion. And the incredible Bulk looking to retain this title against a man, Brandon, I know you consider one of, if not the best champions in VCW history.
You can't argue with Brandon Scott's record of success. He is the second longest reigning champion.
And there is an international object, as they used to say.
Yes, I believe Mr. Crockett may have some familiar with that language. Time for that to go away.
A chain in the boot of Joseph Keys, who clearly came prepared to do whatever it takes.
And credit to referee Ron Mills doing his job, showing why he's a senior official here.
There's a lot of history between these two, Brandon. We'll get into it. You were saying that we can't underestimate Brandon Scott, despite the fact that he has had a string of less than stellar outings of late.
Well, and also, I mean, yes, he's had a string of less than stellar outings. Let's call it what it is. He's on a bit of a losing streak.
Well, he's been in the doghouse. I think is more accurate. It's not about Brandon. It is about the fact that Brandon found himself on the wrong side of our director of operations, Jerry Stefanitsis. He's not the only Brandon that found himself on the wrong side. There was a birthday party that really led to a change in fortunes for two different Brandons, one Brandon Scott and one Brandon Metheny.
Thank you for bringing that up, Jason. I'm certainly not still trying to deal with that with my therapist. But Brandon Scott is one of the greatest champions we've ever had. It is also this situation he finds himself in has made him hungry, has made him want this so badly. It's one of those things, once you lose everything you thought you had, you suddenly realize what's important. And Brandon Scott's realized the VCW Virginia Heavyweight Championship is what's truly important.
Well, it's also humbled Brandon Scott.
Absolutely.
Brandon has been a product of his environment in pro wrestling, and part of that actually comes at the hands of Joseph Keys. These two have known each other a long time, and Joseph Keys has been a bully to Brandon Scott for years, has bullied Brandon's wife, has bullied Brandon's family, his father, and those circumstances really turned Brandon into somebody that he wasn't. He thought to get ahead, he had to be like Joseph Keys, and finally now Brandon beginning to maybe turn a corner in his personal life.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly had success with trying to emulate the Joseph Keys of the world out there, but it was very hollow success. You would go back to the locker room and no one would be around or talk to him. He was a very isolated person. And I think that Brandon has found more to make him whole, more camaraderie, and now it feels like he's ready for that championship. And a very clever move, suckering Joseph Keys in right there.
Brandon Scott is so talented. Brandon Scott is so creative with his offense.
He is one of the most offensively innovative people we have in VCW. He's always bringing on new stuff, always trying things, and most of the time he's successful. It's not just trying, it's winning with things. It's getting victories. It's really impressive to see.
Joseph Keys made sure to find me and said that he wanted the world to know that he respects Brandon's ability and considers Brandon Scott to be the poster child for what he considers the garbage term that wrestling is for everyone. He thinks that Brandon Scott basically doesn't hold himself up to the physical standards of a Joseph Keys, that wrestling is not for everyone, and he is going to bully Brandon Scott out of wrestling to show that this is, as he likes to refer to it, a body business.
Yeah, I don't want to cast aspersions, but it sounds like maybe he doesn't actually respect Brandon Scott like he claims to. But he is certainly smart enough to know the talent of Brandon Scott, the record of Brandon Scott, and the threat that he is to Joseph Keys in his very first championship defense.
Beautiful backbreaker by Joseph Keys, who has truly put it all together of late. And only one because Brandon Scott is fighting with a lot of heart these days.
And Joseph Key is really showing his power there. He didn't just hit Brandon Scott on the neck breaker, he elevated him all the way off his shoulders, flipped him over into that neck breaker. Very, very impressive. And you have to believe that this is really, it would be humiliating for Joseph Keys to lose in his first championship defense.
Especially because Joseph Keys requested this match and got the okay because he promised that Jerry Stephanesis would see Brandon Scott humiliated at Joseph Keys' hands. We both know that this is a very unlikely match for Brandon Scott at this stage of his career to be benefited by a title opportunity. It's because Joseph Keys wants to show that that match against the Boar wasn't a fluke, that there shouldn't be an asterisk next to his name because the reason interfered. Because it seems, honestly, that Joseph Keys had nothing to do with that attack, that it was all about destroying the Boar, not explicitly to benefit Keys.
Yeah, I mean, I think Keys was just sort of a lucky beneficiary of that attack. And we saw that. I mean, when we were in Alexandria and he won the championship, he looked as confused as we were to see the reason out there, but he's going to take it. But now, proving...
Certainly taking it to Brandon Scott right now.
But Joseph Keys looking to prove that he's a true champion on his own, and also, like you said, to get some brownie points with Jerry Stephanidis, especially George Pantis' retirement. You've got to believe that's going to put even more power with Jerry Stephanidis, and that's someone you want to be on the good side of. That said, this is risky. If this doesn't work, Joseph Keys is never going to see a championship match ever again.
No, it was already basically the last shot getting that one against the Boar. And what Keys is doing very well is maintaining that waist control, only letting go to hit a strike, then immediately grabbing back, keeping those wrists locked together in an S-grip.
I mean, if you squeeze the air out of someone, they can't function. They can't do anything. It's a basic fact of biology, but it's very effective.
And Joseph Keys can squeeze. I mean, this guy has muscles and rage, muscles and rage. It's all he's built up.
Yeah, the things he was just lifting random objects in the locker room and just doing curls with them, just because he could. He's got incredible strength, and that makes even a simple hold like this that much more devastating.
The amount of pre-workout this man chugs on a daily basis could kill an elephant.
Yeah, it's impressive that he's able to function, but I think he just focuses everything into that. It is defining of who he is, and it motivates him to be better, to win championships, and to go out there and look as he thinks just the best in the world.
Keys said when he defeats Brandon Scott, he intends to send Brandon Scott packing out of VCW, out of professional wrestling, and we should begin to call him the executioner, Joseph Keys.
Okay, I mean, let's see if that actually happens, but that'll be a massive feather in his cap, or I don't know what other phrase you want to use there, to send someone like Brandon Scott, a long mainstay here in VCW, one of the long-reigning champions of all time, to send him out of the company, that would be quite the accomplishment.
Death from above by Joseph Keys, and now looking for one of those big lariats right to the, nope, immediately going back into the hold. Keys really wearing Brandon Scott down and seemingly doing a little bit of trolling.
Yeah, that again speaks to the lack of respect that I think Joseph Keys actually has for Brandon Scott, whatever he says.
And our audience.
And 100% our audience. I think pretty much everyone but himself and Jerry Stephanidis.
And for the first time in a long time, we were actually hearing this crowd start to cheer for Brandon Scott. It was several months ago that Brandon Scott was on the receiving end of a 2-on-1 beating by NRG, and it was a legitimate humiliation.
Oh, it was humiliating, it was painful, it was everything you don't want to happen. It was a really defining moment in Brandon Scott's life, and it's up to him now to decide how that defines him.
I mean, maybe rock bottom, and this chance to turn things around. Joseph Keys looking to break necks tonight in Norfolk.
I mean, he just drove Brandon Scott's head into the mat, and not just straight down, but twisting as well. A devastating maneuver.
Both these men, so much to prove in this match to themselves.
I think Scott's out on his feet. His arms are just hanging.
A referee has a lot of discretion in this match and may have to call it at some point. This is the opportunity that Brandon Scott has to prove he is 100% the best champion that VCW's ever had. He has said for years, I am the best, the greatest VCW champion of all time. If he becomes a multi-time champion at this point, I mean, that would really go a long way to making that case.
It would, but and that's also why I think the referee's going to try to use his discretion broadly, because you don't want to have a championship match end, especially a Virginia Heavyweight Championship match, and because the referee stops the match.
No, referee's decision is not the way people want.
What is Joseph Keys doing?
Taking advantage of the situation. Looks like he is sawing off one of these brand new turnbuckle pads. We just got these.
We just got it. And I'll tell you, I saw them putting those on. There's also new turnbuckles underneath them. Those are hardened steel. Those are one of the most dangerous parts of the ring.
If Brandon can even get back in, we are up to a count of, I think, 7 or 8 at this point.
Keys saying he's fine with it. Go, go, go. Nope.
Keys does not care how he wins. His pay is the same, whether or not he wins by referee stoppage, pinfall, disqualification. It doesn't matter.
And he's still the champion, however he wins.
Very money motivated is Joseph Keys.
Money and gold. And now just stepping on Brandon Scott's hands, not going to win a match that way, but causing massive damage to those hands. I mean, there's so many tiny little bones in the fingers that can really be damaged that way.
And Scott coming to life, recalling those years of abuse at the hands of Joseph Keys all across Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and for the second time, Keys targeting the belt. No! It was the back, but then the neck of Brandon Scott.
Brandon Scott has taken a lot of abuse in this match. I'm getting very concerned. Lots of shots to the head and neck. It's something the referee really needs to be careful with.
This is a very dangerous Joseph Keys. Nothing in the pool but concrete this winter for Joseph Keys.
And this is the best chance Brandon Scott's had thus far. He's got to do something to capitalize on this, though, which starts with getting to his feet. He's really got to lay something in Joseph Keys before Keys can recover from that miss.
We wondered if earlier Brandon Scott was out on his feet. At this point now, has Joseph Keys done damage to his cognition in this match? At this point, he hit his head very hard.
Yeah, I mean, you lead head first off the top rope. If you miss, it's not going to be pretty.
And we knew that Joe Keys has a thick skull, but maybe not trying to take it quite so literally.
I don't know that anyone is.
And that now prime real estate for attacks by Brandon Scott. He knows just how much damage Keys has taken to that cranium. Oh no.
Oh no, looking for a powerbomb of some sort.
Escapes out the back, crawling on hands and knees, whatever it takes to get away.
Keys shoulder into the corner. Scott finding that second wind right now.
Big back body drop for Joseph Keys. Precision offense here by Brandon Scott, who needs to try and end this quickly. And Keys wisely on defense, Brandon.
I mean, getting out, Keys cannot lose the championship outside of the ring. And Keys calling for his championship here.
We've already seen him bully our timekeeper, and now the timekeeper basically giving him that belt.
Well, would you? I mean, I wouldn't challenge him.
Oh, come on. Throw a spine, both of you.
Okay, so next time I'll tell him to come bother you then. I'm not gonna.
I have a new address.
Okay.
And he hits it!
This could be it right here. He's in the middle of the ring.
And Joseph Keys does get the shoulder up, but barely.
And I mean, we have a good look into Joseph Keys' face right now. He's kind of got that glazed over look. I'm not sure he knows what hit him.
It's rough. He is warmed over at this point. And Brandon Scott may be about to cement his legacy as the greatest VCW Virginia heavyweight champion of all time.
He just has to stay on Keys. That's the most important thing. He can't give him a moment. He's setting up for Keys, the great counter there.
Both these men know each other so well.
Oh, God.
Incredible bulk indeed. That was pure power on display by Joseph Keys.
That's a lot behind that clothesline. And Keys, a twisting knee to the face.
Sending Brandon Scott to sleep in the center of the ring. No, it was only a short nap.
You've got to believe, I mean, at that point, it looked like Brandon Scott had just enough to get out of there. And now very smartly trying to roll to the outside. At least making it so Keys can't pin him right now.
Joseph Keys getting to his feet first. Clearly looks battered and bruised, but he's standing and Brandon Scott is not.
And you can see, again, we have a great angle on it here. Brandon Scott really working hard to draw breath. Really having a hard time right now. He's taking a lot of abuse. Yes, thank you. That's what I was looking for. And has taken a lot of shots to that midsection, to the head and neck.
Joseph Keys being deposited on the top rope in a bad part of town right now. Combination offense by Brandon Scott.
And Keys may be out.
Each of those shots hit perfectly. Keys nowhere near the ropes, and now wisely rolling out of bounds.
How he got out of that, I'm not sure. He took 2 vicious shots to the face on that one.
These two, no quarter-assed, none given, but this is
look,
not looking
Keys
good.
looking to suplex him to the outside.
You know how they say nothing good happens after 2 a.m., nothing good happens outside the ring.
There's nothing outside our ring but cement floors, folks. And Scott with a twisting neck breaker off the rope. Dropping Keys to greater distance.
Keys was hung out to dry, and Brandon Scott not getting frustrated, immediately hitting another kick.
So smart.
Just laying it on. Brandon Scott getting closer and closer.
He's got to keep staying on him, though.
And Joseph Keys deciding to get himself disqualified. And Joseph Keys opting not to win the match, but not lose the title. Wait a second.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. It is not midnight. This is still my ring. I'm still the commissioner. You get back in there. You need to win this match fair and square in the middle of the ring. Get back in there. Continue the match. Continue the match. This match goes on. I'm winning the winner in the middle of the ring right now. You are not going to win this way. You're going to win in the middle of the ring.
What are we going to do without George Pantis, his very last act as the commissioner? And now Brandon Scott behind the referee's back. Brandon Scott with a low blow of his own. Slice of excellence, Brandon. Slice of excellence.
Joseph Keys very close to the rope. Scott, he's in the middle of the ring here.
Brandon Scott wasn't sure exactly what to do.
Hang on. Ron Mills.
The foot was on the
No,
ropes.
the foot was on the ropes.
The
Foot was on the ropes. Ron Mills not calling for the bell. You got to believe this because it's this late in the match. Brandon Scott not having that ring awareness, not realizing where Joseph Keys is, because if he rolls him the other direction, he's the champion right now.
It was the question. It was, do I take the time to roll him or do I go for the pin immediately? Decided to go for the brevity, and unfortunately, this match is not finished.
Yeah, the fans don't like it, but it's the right call. Keys got his foot on the rope well before that 3 count.
Brandon Scott has hit the low blow. Brandon Scott has been hit by a low blow. And Brandon, this match isn't over. I'm not sure why not continue the assault.
Yeah, Keys is, he hasn't moved. He's unconscious.
Prone. He is prone.
Brandon Scott needs to take advantage of this right now. I understand his frustration, but you can take care of that very quickly, sir.
It almost seems like in that moment of celebration, all the endorphins kind of rushed to Brandon. He's already cooled down. He just doesn't have that same killer instinct he did a few moments ago, and we are still continuing.
Yeah, this match is going on, folks. He just, I think you're right. I think he hit that high and then realizing it's not there. It's very hard to slam on those brakes like that.
Brandon Scott, I'm not sure what Brandon is waiting for.
I think he's stunned. I think he doesn't know what to do.
Joseph Keys has not moved, and now Brandon Scott and finally making his way over to Keys.
Who now rolls to the outside. Very smart.
And Keys calling for a timeout. Brandon Scott not willing to oblige. Things have picked up very quickly.
And Scott laying in those shots on the outside. I think he found that killer instinct again there, Jason.
Peppering Keys with right. Keys looking like he's on wobbly legs in the center.
And Scott pulls him into a submission hold right in the middle of the ring. Couldn't be better positioning than this.
Is Keys gonna tap? Is he gonna look a fool in front of the eyes of Jerry Stefanitsis? George Pantis made one last decision as commissioner here to restart this match.
Keys in that corner, he can't quite find that rope.
Trying, grasping, fingertips almost making it, but almost doesn't count in pro wrestling, Brandon.
But that does. Scott, I understand the frustration. You got to break this hold.
And Scott does on 3, had till 5. Being more of a gentleman than Joseph Keys would likely be if the situations were reversed.
Well, he needs to be careful. A disqualification here, and he's done. That's it. He doesn't get the chance at the championship. He needs to make sure he defeats Joseph Keys.
Yeah, there's not likely another opportunity in store anytime soon for Brandon Scott. This is a one and done. Oh no! DDT'd the soul out of Scott.
And after all of the abuse that Scott's taken to his head and neck, it may be academic at this point.
I mean, it's about biology.
Right.
And what the human body can take, what the spine can take.
The neck is strong, but it's not designed to hold up the weight of your entire body.
We are resilient, but also very fragile creatures. And it only takes one bad break for the entire body to break bad.
And that looks like that turnbuckle fell off.
That turnbuckle that Joseph Keys had taken off earlier. Our referee has yet to notice that situation. And now Keys.
I mean, Ron Mills being very responsible watching the two wrestlers right now.
Looking for a superplex, using that skull as a weapon yet again. God! And reversing the polarity! Turning it into a crossbody. What an incredible counter by Brandon Scott.
Incredible to be that heads up at this point in this match.
And Brandon Scott was able to keep from going headfirst in that turnbuckle. Wait a second, looking for the keys to victory. And Joseph Keys.
Oh, and Scott hits an exposed turnbuckle. Referee did not see any of that.
Keys to victory. He hits it. But can he capitalize?
Scott's there for the taking. He's just got to get into the cover.
He has to win it legally too. He cannot cheat. He can't use the belt even though it's there. He can't use a low blow. Pantis won't allow it. And he gets it done.
Here's your winner, and still ECW Virginia Heavyweight Champion, Joseph Keys.
It was a long and winding road. There were twists and turns, commissioner decrees, but at the end of it all, Joseph Keys successfully defended the Virginia Heavyweight Championship here in his first defense.
And you got to wonder what's next for Joseph Keys. What's next for Brandon Scott? Joseph Keys still the champion, but there are a lot of very hungry people in that locker room looking to become VCW Virginia Heavyweight Champion next.
Joseph Keys wanted a definitive win over a former champion, wanted it to be known he doesn't need help, and he did it. He beat Brandon Scott, and what path forward in VCW is there for Brandon at this point? Where can he possibly go from here?
I think that's one of the big questions going into next year, Jason. There's a big question mark over Brandon Scott's career now, and it remains to,
We know where Joseph Keys is going. The former champion, Pig Daddy Cool, making his presence felt, chair in hand, motioning. He will not stop until he gets that belt again.
And he's got a rematch out there, Jason, and Joseph Keys knows it.
But we can see the boar is walking very gingerly. It was very clear that some damage was done to the boar's knees earlier. Is he walking in a potentially conquering hero? Or is he brittle, maybe even broken as Joseph Keys hightails it out? It has been a monumental year for VCW, and Tidings of Destruction was just the capstone. For all of you who've supported us throughout this year, our expansion into Alexandria, here in Norfolk and Hampton High, everywhere we've been, we thank you so much. For my colleague and friend, Brandon Metheny, I'm Jason Heat, and thank you for your support. Happy holidays.